score. And that's where we can then start to recommend products and get people on subscription, because this isn't a one-time solution. This is a journey, a process. You need to be consistent with your health goals and eating right and taking supplements. And so we have a variety of solutions that people can utilize to go and increase their score. And then lastly, while we're focusing on subscription and our products, this will help to create and promote customer retention and loyalty. Again, we have multiple solutions, and this is a process, and it's not just a one-time purchase, right? You want to maintain that healthy lifestyle and journey and continue to increase your score or stay at a high Prysm score. So with that, hopefully you've had a chance, and this makes sense with the technology that we've walked through. Very unique opportunity, and we are so impressed with our teams of scientists and engineers who have all put this together to make such a unique and innovative product. I'm now going to turn the time over to Yoko Little, who is our Global Vice President over Marketing, and she will walk us through some of the data that we've been seeing from these S3 scores and how it's been informing our strategy with Prysm.io and with future products to come.
Thank you, Haley, for your kind introduction. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk a little more also about the product side of things. Now, this chart here this chart comes from a study that was published in the Lancet journal, just came out in August of 2024, so it's fairly recent. It's really significant because it really took a good look at the global population and mapped out the nutrient deficiencies that are happening throughout the world. And as you can see, the type of nutrient deficiencies that you see, depending on the type of nutrients, are actually quite different. So our R&D team is really taking notes of these types of insights to take a look at how we can continue to optimize our LifePack portfolio globally based on some of the regional support and additional nutrients needs in mind. And as you can see, there's a number of nutrients that are mapped out here. And depending on, not only in the region, but there are diverse differences in the gaps between gender, between the ages. So a lot of these great input is now incorporated into the new version of nutritional supplements that we're actually developing and rolling out very soon. So that's one of the fun and exciting, updates that you'll see along with the Prysm.io introduction. And just here's an example of how that looks like for the United States. You can see as compared to the optimum nutrition status, you can see vitamin E, iodines, those are actually much lower as compared to the recommended dosage. When you compare also going all the way down to the bottom, the niacin, selenium, those nutrients are actually much closer to the optimum level. So all these insights are now taken into consideration to create a new generation of supplements, new generation of LifePack that meets the nutritional needs both for the regional, and then we'll be expanding into different gender, age groups, and so forth. Here's just one more example looking at the Latin America. And as you can see how it's very different when you look even between the North America and the South America, Latin America. The nutrient deficiency mapping looks very different. Again, this is just another point to show that regional approaches is much needed, in addition to, again, looking at the age-specific nutrition needs, gender-specific nutrition needs, and so forth. So while that's going on, we wanted to also talk a little bit about, how best to take a look at the score, the Prysm score, and continue to figure out how we can improve the Prysm score. So your score is really based on a number of different factors. What impacts your score could be based on your BMI, your supplementation, nutrition, how much servings of fruits and vegetables you're taking. There are a number of things that could impact your overall health status as well as your score. So with that in mind, we have this wealth of information and data over the past over 22 years, actually 2002 to 2024. And we have 21 million data points that we have gathered globally. And taking a look at, the mapping of that data, you can see 20% approximately go into the low score, low to medium 28%, 23% in the moderate area. So that's where majority of the population really falls in. But what's interesting is, taking even a smaller segment of the demographic. Let's take a look at, people who have never taken LifePak, have very low servings of fruits and vegetables that they're taking daily, high BMI, and also smoking. So when you look at that particular segment, you can see the drastic change with the low score and the low to moderate score. Now, taking a little more look at this mapping, what if we eliminate the smoking, from this group? So still no supplement, low fruit and vegetable, high BMI, but just removing the smoking, you see a meaningful improvement in the overall score. When you add BMI, body mass index, being normal, so normal to healthy weight, again, the score moves up. And as you add more fruits and vegetables, to 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables daily, you'll see more meaningful improvement. And then what's really interesting and exciting is adding LifePak once daily or twice daily LifePak, you'll see more movement towards the healthier state or more movement towards the healthier nutrition state that you see on this chart. So this was really interesting and meaningful data that we are learning from to incorporate into the Prysm technology and the Prysm science. Again, the way to improve your wellness and the nutrition status is by avoiding the oxidation, boost your nutrition, optimize your fitness level, and then be able to start, taking a good supplementation that can give you a meaningful lift in your nutrition status. So those are the 3 or 4 areas that you could take a look at. It was interesting during the recent global, team elite, there were a lot of people who scored very high, high to even extra high. And when you're working with a number of top leaders who have been taking these supplements for many years, that's really typical, green and blue, maybe even some purple. So that was really good to see those great scores, coming from the team elites and being able to listen to their stories about how they really watch out for their health and what type of supplements they're taking. But the reality is majority of the population really go more towards, low to medium in the moderate, state. So this really has the ability and the power to help raise awareness and be able to help, we'll be able to now help people through the journey of making good choices to improve their overall nutrition status and their overall wellness. So super excited about that. And to really wrap up, this section and session today, we'd like to really introduce, Dr. Joe Cheng. He's the #1 New York Times bestseller author of The Aging Myth. He has studied antioxidant science over the past decades, and he'll be able to really tell you what Prysm IO means to each and every one of us. So, Joe.
Hi, everybody. As you have heard from many of my colleagues here about this new development that we have in the device called the Prysm IO, we have explained and described a lot of things behind how we developed this particular device. Artificial intelligence, that's what we've been using as an algorithm to drive the Prysm IO. That actually requires data. Remember, all of us were born with a brain, right? So how come we had to go to school to learn? Because we should be instantly smart, but we are not. We were sent to school. Why? To get data, to really sort of input into our brain the amount of information so that we can become intelligent. A computer, an artificial intelligence algorithm, technically speaking, is no different than our brain. And that is, it requires training. And that training can only come from the fact that we can input the relevant data. In this instance, that Raman database that we've been talking about is actually the information we have been feeding into Prysm IO. That's a unique piece. Think about it, all right? The light technology in and of itself is already unique. But what is equally important is this database. And that's what differentiates Prysm IO. insofar as it being unique device, because you may find some similar like technology out there in the world, but it's really sort of not not identical to what we can achieve and what we can accomplish because of the Raman database. It's a connection of those two, right? The engineering together with the database that we have collected over the last 20 years or so, that the combination of it, the connection of those two things together, that's what makes Prysm so uniquely differentiated. All right, so I'm hoping that when you listen to Yoko and Haley and Steve and so on, that you don't walk away with the impression that Prysm IO is just a sort of a device, right? It's just a new device. It has a lot of potential going forward. At this point in time, it is measuring the antioxidants and what we've been able to do just on that single factor alone, right? We have been able to translate that. In other words, we have been able to take that antioxidant information because of the Raman database, be able to conclude it's actually a biomarker of nutritional health. That's a very significant breakthrough. Because frankly, it took us more than 20 years to educate everybody on the importance of antioxidant. Now, we don't have to do that. Which brings me to the point that really think about Prysm as an opportunity platform. Over the last 40 years, for example, and you can see, I call these the smooth stones that exist in new skin, the 5 smooth stones of opportunity, if you will. And the reason I use that analogy is because in the Old Testament, you would imagine David, when he slew Goliath, he did it with one smooth stone, right? We all remember that story. However, what you don't remember is the fact that in his pouch, he had another 4 stones. And the reason for that, and that you have to read the Old Testament again, was because David recognized that Goliath had 4 other brothers, equally strong, equally big. And he has to be prepared. He had to be prepared to have enough ammunition, if you will, to be able to fight against those 4 brothers in case he has to. Those are called the 5 smooth stones that David collected from a brook. In our case, back 40 years ago, the first smooth stone that we collected and we employed was really looking at everything that we have done in new skin. Back when Sandy, Steve Lund, and Blake Roney, when it came together, if you look at all the things that are being done, it came down and it converged into one simple theme. And that is all of the good, none of the bad. That's what differentiated new skin. That was the first smooth stone of opportunity for everybody in new skin. Couple of years later, 3 or 4 years later, there was another second smooth stone that was shot out. And that is the science-based products that we are launching from new skin. And how that came about was somewhat personal to me, because that's when Pharmanex was acquired by New Skin back in 1998. And that's what created the science-based smooth stone. The theme, the opportunity, it raised New Skin to another level of innovation, right? And that drove New Skin for quite a few years. And again, a few more years later, we came up with what? And obviously, this is the thing that is connected to Prysm. And that was the biophotonic scanner. The first one we brought out was around 2003. And every couple of years, we iterated and we improved that biophotonic scanner, which for today, as of today, we have what we call the S3 version. And that is much smaller, much quicker. But nonetheless, all 3 versions of the biophotonic scanner measures and gives out And the claim we put on it was it measures the antioxidant status in the body. In and of itself, that was already good enough to be a very successful third smooth stone that we launched from Nail Skin. And then quickly on, we follow up with what we call the age-lock smooth stone, right? That drove another spurt of growth in Nail Skin for roughly about 10 years or so. And it literally sort of really, I think, cumulatively regenerated both from the skincare side and from the Pharmanex nutritional side, all these age-lock products, they actually total about slightly over $10 billion of revenue over the last 10 years. So it was a wonderful opportunity for all of you. And that is wonderful. And then finally, not finally, but for now, the fifth smooth stone was the launch of the devices. You already have heard that we are now the #1 beauty device systems company, not just in our world of direct selling, but in the whole beauty space as well. So those are the 5 smooth stones that we have. I think it has been over the last 4 years, it drew and drove the growth of Nail Skin during ever since its foundation or founding back in 1984, I believe. Okay? Now we are at a point now. We're going to do better than David. And that is we're going to launch the 6th smooth stone. And this is Prysm. Okay? And Prysm is very much related to this whole concept, what I would call biohacking. Some of you may have heard of the term, and some of you may think some of you would sort of think that, wait a minute, biohacking may be a negative connotations associated with it. Well, it really isn't, because in science, what it means really is to be able to understand the body well and accurately based on data. That's the transformation with Prysm. What you heard from Haley, right? How the engineering works and so on. And I'll come back to that in a minute, because that is also important, because what Haley has been telling you is really the fact that Prysm is going to have a lot of potential, which we're not discussing right now because we haven't explored them yet, but it has a potential. And that is why, Yoko shared with you all that data once again. It's the opportunity. It's huge, not just in a particular region of the world, in every region of the world, that we are now able, with the help of the Prysm, we'll be able to help people to sort of, understand their nutritional health status. That's what we mean. And overall, in the future, we'll go to other areas of the body that we can help and be able to sort of monitor and help you understand skin health, even as well as what we can do on the nutrition side. So think about it along those lines. And remember, the Prysm is not just an incremental improvement over the current scanner. It is important. It is related. We could not develop and we could not make the current claim with the Prysm without the biophotonic scanner that we have. All right? That Raman database is absolutely critical. And I think it's going to be a big, huge and high barrier to entry because it took us 20 years to generate that. All right? So for a competitor, for example, to be able to duplicate what we're doing with the Prysm, they will have to conduct another 20 years of work to be able to generate a correlation between lifestyle factors and the antioxidant value that you get from a person. So, and I'm hoping that what I'm telling you is the fact that Prysm is more than just an incremental improvement. It's really a huge leap forward into how you can really answer the question, how do you know, about your nutritional health? You can right now.